Welcome back, everybody. This is Lindsay, and this is Linda's Investing. And today I bring you another guest. This is Jared, Mr. Jared.
Hello.
He he's famous now, so I have a famous guest. He's going to be a speaker next year at the conference in Vegas from One Rental at a Time, founded by Michael Suber. So, Jared, I believe that you're going to be on day one speaking at the conference?
Yeah, and I get to follow Cody, right? He comes out first and then I'm right after. I'm like, man, this guy's like worth millions. He's a young guy. I'm an old guy. I just got started. I'm like, but that's okay. It's good to have people that are closer to the beginning of the journey than towards the end, I think, for some investors. So
Yeah, no, it's so exciting to see you speak because I know that you host the accountability calls on school, and then we seen you progressively, even almost exponentially grow over the last like year and a half. But I wanted to reach out to the audience and let them know what you're working on right now. But before, real estate went and took over your whole life, uh,
much.
what were you doing? I was gonna ask you, like, what was the plan for retirement since you were saying like you were working in corporate
You
for a
know,
while?
it's kind of dumb. It's a long, drawn out story, but essentially there wasn't much of a plan. I had a 401k and I had a little bit of stocks here and there, but then I got spooked a couple years. I pulled out of the stock market way early because I got spooked way before and then missed out on the back-to-back 20+% things. So I'm with Zuber. I don't do well at the stock market. Plus the tax benefits for real estate are better. But yeah, I was just in corporate, climbing the corporate ladder, and I don't know. I didn't really have a plan. I know it sounds dumb, but I had 401k stuff, and we were putting it away, and I don't know. I started doing the math one day and was thinking, okay, this isn't going to work. and I thought, well, I got to start doing something. And then taxes, it was April 15th, 2023, when the light bulb came on. I didn't actually look to get into real estate. I was just trying to save money on taxes so I could keep more of what I made. And that's when I really got upset and started digging into it. And that's where I found the book Tax Free Wealth. And that book, I know everybody says, Rich Dad, Poor Dad was the book that changed their life. Mine was Tax Free Wealth. I came at this at a completely different angle. I was looking to save money on taxes, read that book, and that book basically said, hey, get into real estate. And that opened this whole new door for me. And I turned into a REI nut job in the last 2 years. I just went full bore and finances too. I'm not a finance guy. But funny enough, I'm a numbers guy. Well, I like Excel. I'm in corporate. I'm an IT nerd, right? So IT manager at Intel, and so I've been in that world. But every time I climbed that ladder, they took more and more taxes, and I just got upset. And then here I am. So
Yeah, and so one book changed your whole life. It seems like that you just dove into like real estate. A lot of people that I'm sure you heard like in podcasts and interviews, like stay in those stuck of like analysis paralysis period of year in which you like your fears, you may have the information, you may be able to regurgitate the information, but you still like waiting for something to happen.
yeah,
How come you didn't get stuck
my
on
my
that?
personality, I'm not that way. I'm like if I believe something's true, I'll go for it. Like I'll tell you, I still haven't even finished that book, Tax Free Wealth. I think I got about three-quarters of the way through it, and I was like, I know enough, went for it. And so I know that's weird. Maybe some people can't resonate with that. Some can though. But and here's the other thing. I didn't read books. Like I'm not a book reader. And for me, this is probably gonna jade me, I guess, a little bit, but I don't like to read physical books. Like I want to read Dion's book, but the Audible's not out yet. So I'll get the Audible as soon as it comes out. But it's like, I'm not gonna read 500 pages of turning a page. I have a little bit of problems with my eyes. Glasses, but I have to reread the sentence a few times because it doesn't stick. Like I don't know, my eyes. I don't know if it's dyslexia or whatever they call it, but I had problems reading the physical paper. But audiobooks was a life changer for me because I can listen to it and actually retain the information that way rather than reading it. Um, my brother's a little bit worse than me. Just my brother and I as far as siblings, but he has to not only listen to the audible but read the book at the same time in order to retain the information. So that's even weirder than me. But yeah, that book, I mean, it just fundamentally instantly changed my life. And then man, I was like, all right, well, what's the next step? And then what's the next step? And it just so
So you tried a few different communities before you found one rental at a time, it seems like. Tell me a little bit about that experience of like
It's kind of
12
weird.
spaces.
Yeah, it's kind of weird. I was like, all right, well, real estate's how I save money on taxes, like day one. And then like, okay, cool, save money on taxes, keep more of what I make. Yay. Day two was cash flow. I'm like, ooh, cash flow. Because I didn't, most people do real estate and I think cash flow from the beginning. I'm a backwards kind of person, I guess. And so I was like, all right, save money on taxes day one, day two, cash flow. And then I was like, all right, well, what's going to get me the maximum cash flow? I looked into the traveling nurses was big at the time, but I did some research and it seemed to me about 2029, 2030, that was going to kind of dry up and I didn't want to be invested in something to where it would go away. So the best option for me was co-living, right? So I was like, all right, well, that's the goal. The military and Intel taught me this. So corporate's not all that bad because it taught me a lot about structure and finance. I manage multi-million-dollar budgets and, it's helpful, right? To be able to manage budgets and do all that. I do my own books and all that sort of thing. But yeah, I just went down that rabbit hole and here I don't know. Did I answer your question? I kind of got off on a topic there.
Yeah, you jump communities that you
Oh,
join
I'm sorry. So
on
yeah,
your
so I
niche.
I
Yeah.
got online and I was digging into. I was all right. Who can I learn from, right? And so I found Pace Morby first, actually, and I looked into it. And I know you're recording this, but I gotta say because this is the truth. I was like, man, this guy's full of shit. You know what I mean? So I was like, oh wait, whoops, I probably shouldn't have said this. Is that okay? Or
That's fine.
we'll bleep it out later.
Yeah.
And I was like trying to disprove him. That's the other thing. I used to be a very pessimistic person, and Pace taught me that not everybody's out there to scam you, right? I mean, because it seemed kind of weird to me. So I was like, all right, I'm going to take a chance. I got to start somewhere. So I started as a private money lender with his Gator community because it was cheaper. He had the sub two community. It was like 8,900 bucks at the time. I think it's more. And then they had the lending community, which was like, I don't know, 1,800 bucks. It's like, man, that's a lot of money. But I was like, I got to do something. So I went for it, tried for a couple months, couldn't make anything work. At that time, he had Gator 1.0, and I think he's on Gator, I don't know, 6 or 7 now, which has a whole bunch of different strategies. But at that time, he started people off with earnest money. And I was doing that and couldn't make it work, couldn't make it work. Learned a lot though. So I switched up to the private money because that's what a lot of other people doing. And my very first deal was a 400K raise. Well, it was a 400K loan and I liked it and the numbers worked. And I'm like, man, I was kind of weird about it. And so I made some phone calls and I raised 300. Like I have never done a deal before. I've never bought any real estate, never done a loan before. I made a couple phone calls and boom, I had 350K and I put 50K into the deal. So my first deal was a capital raise, which is weird. And we got the 400K and funded the loan. And here's what it was. It was a 2-month loan for 15% for a portfolio loan. It was a guy had bought an auction. Back then they were packaging up foreclosures and whatnot and selling them off as auctions instead of individuals. And this guy had bought it for I think 1.3 million, but he needed funds to, fix up some, wholesale some, whatever. So we funded it 2 months and a week. He was a week late. I made $8,900 in 2 months. I'm like, holy crap. So just so happens the 8,900 was what I needed to join sub two. So I was like, all right, well, free rolling.
Right.
I joined sub two. It wasn't really money out of my pocket. So out of pocket at $1,800 or whatever, got into sub two, awesome community. I mean, it's huge. Got to learn some stuff in there. And I was doing more research, found Dion first, drove up to Washington, met him, and Michael, Millennium Mike was there. And Dion was nice enough. I think we got lucky. He's a good guy. He'll talk to you and everything. But we sat there. It was me and Curtis. I just met Curtis that night too. And we sat there and talked to Dion and Mike for 6 hours, something ridiculous. Because it was the Cody and Christian multifamily when they were together at that
Oh,
time
wow.
up in
Mhm.
Washington. And it was a multifamily event. Well, Millennial Mike and Dion don't do multifamily. So they were sitting at this table and I'd learned from Dion. So I sat there and we bugged him all night long. And I was like, man, this is cool. Somebody's taking the time to tell me everything I need to know. And then that's where then I found Zuber, right? And then it was off to the races from there. I had people that had been there, done that. So all I had to do was follow the tax code and listen to what people, well, listen to some of what people, now, no, none of those guys do what I'm doing. I'm doing rent by room, but you still have, finding the deal and finances and other things that fit. So I took pieces of, like, I don't agree with everything Dion says. I agree a lot of what Zuber says and some of what Millennial Mike, but pieces you take, put together and form your own, investment strategy. So that's what so Intel is a very, goal-oriented company. Obviously, they have OKRs, BKMs, and KPIs. So OKRs, objective key results, right? The longer term.
Yeah.
KPIs, key performance indicators. And then I forgot the other one I just said, but they have goals. So you start with the goal in mind and work your way backwards. So that's what I did. It's like, all right, I want cash flow now that I know what that is, with the potential for appreciation and tax write-offs. So sounds funny, but Arizona was the place that fit for me. I wanted landlord friendly. And so I was looking at, Florida, Texas, Arizona, and North Carolina. North Carolina was kind of far. I saw it as more of an appreciating market, and I was looking for cash flow. I was like, all right, a little far to be going back and forth from Oregon. Florida was a little far, but I was scared of the hurricanes. Man, dodged a bullet on that one. Texas, the property taxes were just stupid for out-of-state investors. So I landed on Arizona, closer, fifth largest city in the nation, fit what I was trying to do, because I started with the strategy of rent my room first to try to fit where I was going, and boom, there we are. We're at 32 units right now, and we're looking for our fifth investment property now, because I got to get another one before the end of the year. 100% bonus depreciation came back, so I'm like, oh crap, I got to get another one. So
Mhm.
yeah, it's been a wild ride.
Yeah, you're doing something that nobody else is doing. At least it seems like almost no people are doing co-living. So you meet a lot of people that are in real estate investing long term, right? Investing multifamily, and then you choose co-living. How did that come about?
Well, I saw Cody right on one of his thing. I'm like, man, this kid, or sorry, I don't mean to call him kid, but I'm 51. He's 25. But at the time, I think he was 21 or something, or 22 or whatever it was when I saw him. I'm like, man, this kid's killing it. And I like multifamily. I really do like the multiple streams of income. I don't like the debt structure. So essentially, what I did was I put the multifamily income streams into 30-year fixed rate debt, because all my properties are 8 units. I do rent by room. So I rent out each individual bedroom, which is lucrative, but I have 30-year fixed rate debt on conventional mortgages. I know that you can network with other multifamily and get seller finance, 30-year fixed rate debt and all that, which is what Cody did. But I wanted to start and get going, and I knew that was going to take time. So I thought, well, I've got some capital. I want to get this thing going. And so that's what I did. Um,
Yeah, that is kind of like amazing. But at the same time, did you know about PadSplit already when
I
you went to
I
co?
did. I found out about, well, I'd found Sam Wiegert. He was doing co-living and without PadSplit. He's been doing it for like 15 years. And I thought that's really cool. And then it was like the next day I saw Pace. Now since he doesn't mention PadSplit anymore, but at that time he was talking about PadSplit. And I'm like, oh, that's the same thing that Sam Wiegert guy was doing. And I looked into it, I was like, cool. They have a system built up. Now they advertise it as more than what it is, to be honest. Like we do all this stuff, we take care of all that stuff. No, they don't. You're still managing, dealing with tenants and all that stuff. But it was a way to get started. Originally, we were going to do co-living on our own and not furnish, but it just so happens I ran into Mark Kohler. He does Main Street. He's a lawyer. He owns KKS Lawyers. I was in Phoenix, and my wife makes fun of me to this day, but we're walking, and I was like, that's Mark Kohler. And she's like, who the hell's Mark Kohler? Most people are, you know, big movie stars or actresses. I don't know any of those people, but I know who lawyers and accountants are. So I was like, that's Mark Kohler. So I went over and I was like, hey man, you're Mark Kohler. He's like, yeah. And he gave me like 15 minutes of his time. And that's where I learned about the short-term rental loophole.
Mhm.
And so at that time, we had bought our first property, and we were in the middle of renovating it. And so I ran into him. And so that's where we switched gears, because we were originally going to do not PadSplit, do it on our own. Because at that time I wasn't working, I wasn't employed. And so I figured I could do it myself. Well, I knew at some point I'd probably have to get a job or do something. So I thought, well, and my wife actually, owe my wife credit for this, because she said, we could use PadSplit and just leverage what they have. I'm like, that's a very good idea. Let's do that. But the reason we did that is because the short-term rental loophole, if people don't know, it's a way to deduct your active income, or you turn your passive income into active, and then you can do active to active deductions. So that's what we did. We rented it out for it was towards the end of the year, in November. And so we just ran it as a short-term rental for 2023, shut it down in December, and then January 1, 2024, flipped it over and did the co-living thing with PadSplit. The reason we did PadSplit is because we had to furnish it to run it as the Airbnb. So we figured, well, we already furnished it, might as well do the PadSplit thing. So that's what we did, and it worked out great. So if it's not broke, don't fix it. So we just did two more that way.
Mhm. And you did this all while you were unemployed.
Yeah, well, I mean, I was doing the private money lending from April till say August. And I still have some repeat borrowers, but I largely don't do that much anymore. I was just trying to move the capital, and my idea was I could learn while making a buck, making a few dollars and learn from people as long as I didn't lose any money. You know,
Mhm.
Pace teaches this, and then you've heard it from others, and Charlie Munger and Warren Buffett. Number one rule: don't lose money. Number two rule: reference number one, don't lose money. So that was my mindset. So I vetted the hell out of stuff. But yeah, I'd worked up until August 15th, 2023, and I had closed on I was supposed to close on the property August 2nd to verify employment. Sorry, but it was a primary purchase, and I was living in the property, by the way. So I had purchased it, renovated it, and got it done by the end of the year and flipped it over. But August 15th was a close date, or was my end date, and it ended. My close date moved from the 2nd to the 7th. Then I was going on vacation, and while on vacation, things changed. It pushed out to August 12th, and I'm like, oh man, because the very last step they do is verify employment before you close.
Mhm.
We closed August 14th, the day before.
Oh no.
And it was like 5 o'clock in the morning, and I'm in Maui at a Marriott or whatever, and they didn't have a scanner. So the last piece of documentation they needed for me to close, I ended up taking a picture with my phone and cropped it and made an image, and then I emailed it, and they took it. And I'm like, I can't believe that worked. So it was awesome. So we ended up closing on the property the day before my last day of employment at Intel. I was like, man, talk about cutting it close. But then left Intel, went to work on real estate and did that for about a year, and then ended up going back to Intel August 19th, 2024. So a year and 4 days later. So
Mhm,
which is
mhm.
cool because when I left Intel, they did a buyout and I got paid for 51 and a half weeks. So essentially I got paid for a year off and then went back to
Right.
the same company because they gave me my same salary and a signing bonus. So it was great.
Oh wow.
Oh man, it was awesome.
So
So
you never technically stopped working.
no, well, I mean, I didn't have a W-2 for a year,
Right.
but I was working on real estate. Yeah. So we bought 3 houses in that year. And then we bought our fourth one while I was employed again. So we're almost done with that one. We're going back on the 20th. It's the 17th, August 17th today when we're recording this, but August 22nd, I'll be back there to finish it up.
Mhm. So does it mean that your first house was a conventional loan and the second and the third were
The-
DSCR?
yeah, second and third were DSCRs, which for people that don't know, so if you're a brand new investor like I was, you don't have a track record. And so the DSCR luckily is based on the property, but they still look at you like, hey, are you an operator? And they're like, you don't have any history. So they said, hey, you got to put 25% down. I was like, okay. I think it was like 105 or whatever. I'll back up a little bit. The first house, I didn't know any better. I paid full list price. Zuber, if you listen to this, hey man, you don't know what you don't know. I did get 11K in concessions though, and it was a purchase from Open Door, and they'd already done up granite countertops, stainless steel, so it was worth it, especially in that area. And I got started, so I don't regret it. Sorry, caffeine's kicking in, so you're getting the full speed here. So bought that one, and things were kind of working out. So I had to do some research to find out how in the hell I'm going to get another one. And so DSCR came up, debt service coverage ratio. For those that don't know, I'm sure your listeners probably do, but 25% down, and then they did it. And I think the only reason they did it was because I had an IRA that I just transferred into a self-directed, or two of them. I have a Roth and then a standard traditional IRA. And so that was enough security for them to give me the loan because I didn't have a track record. And
Mhm.
then a month later, I came back to them and said, hey, I want to do another one. And they're like, what? So they said, look, man, you're going to have to put 30% down. I was like, okay.
Oh wow.
Yeah. So we put like 130 grand down on that one. And so, yeah, they were like, this guy's a nut job. Um, and then so by that time, then we were we were pretty well versed, and now we've got over 2 years in there. So it's a little easier now. So
Yeah. And then now you're using conventional again.
yeah, yeah. And then, well, I just reached out. Zuber mentioned to me, hey, your network, because it was in the private money space, and this is like a duh moment for me. Most of the private money lenders I work with were 6 months or 1 year and under, so they didn't really fit my needs for private money. He'd mentioned in a video, hey, you should go check into your private money lenders. I'm like, okay. But it didn't click with me because all the people I know were short term. I need long term. Well, it so happens I've found two private money lenders that are willing to, on my next deal, talk about things. One of them is okay, and the other one's really weird. I don't know if your listeners have heard of this. So the first guy wanted a 6-year balloon, no payments for 6 years with a 67K payback for 200K, but he
Mm.
implied he wanted equity. So we'll have to work that out. And the other guy told me something which was I've never heard before. He's an older guy. I think he's relatively wealthy. He's got a lot of real estate. And we had coffee a few times. We've been talking, and he said he just wanted to do it for market. And I had to ask him, like market to me, if you sell stock, I goes, do you mean like if you celebrate in the ups and the downs? He's like, yeah. I'm like, whoa, because usually people want a fixed return right on their money. And if this guy came in, he was saying he would just do market, meaning if we have a good month, he gets a portion of that. If we have a bad month, he suffers with that too. And I'd never heard any private money lender mention that before. So
That is odd.
it seems interesting, but I think he's an older, he's 72, he's a former doctor, and he's just retired, and he's just investing, and I think he's having fun with it. And I don't know. Yeah, that's a weird one. So I don't know. Once I get the next deal on the hook, I'll hit him up, and if it's good, great, and if not, I'll just go ahead and I've been using my HELOC to make the purchase, and then I'll backfill with my IRA money. But in this case, what I'll do is I'll use the HELOC to purchase, and then I'll wait till January 1st, 2026 to backfill. That way, the 10% penalty off the IRA, because I'm not 59 and a half yet, I'll backfill in the next year. That way, I don't have to worry about that 10% until the next tax year.
Following year. Yeah. So I know that you're doing multiple strategies all at once. Not only are you doing co-living, you're doing out of state, right? You're managing out of state. You're using velocity banking.
Yeah, that's awesome.
You're you are moving money out of retirement account to pay back your HELOC. There's so many components to
Yeah.
your investing. Do you ever feel like are you gonna mainstream anything of it, like your investing type?
I've had a few people ask me to, like, I'm not trying to create another job, but I've had a few people saying, hey, do you want to manage my property? And I was like, no. Right. Especially because this W-2 I have, you can manage. So I'm an IT manager for Intel, and I manage basically North and South America for all the fabs, right? Network. And it's a crazy job. Like, duh, 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 duh. So while I'm employed, at least with this role, I'm eligible to retire in December of this year, so in a few months. So we'll see what happens there, or maybe Intel will retire me, because they're laying a lot of people off. They just got through laying off like 15,000 people, and there's another thing coming. But if I was to retire, and if I was to move to Phoenix, which is the plan in about 3 years, because my middle child goes off to college at that point, and my son, he's a social butterfly. He'll get along with anybody anywhere, and plus he's an online geek anyway. Um, the plan is to move down there and do the snowbird thing. Go keep this house. We have a 2.25 on our primary in Oregon, so I mean, I'm not touching that with a 10-foot pole. And we've got like, I don't know, 400 or 500 in equity in it, something stupid. So yeah, I'm not touching that with a 10-foot pole. And we'll come back here in the summers and go down there in the winters and travel and do all that. But if we move down there, then you know I'm not trying to toot my own horn, but I think I would kill it as a property manager for co-living and not PadSplit, because PadSplit, um, they change their fee structure and kind of upset me a little bit because they're doing money grab, in my opinion. But
Mhm.
and anyway, but there's a whole story there. But so that's why this Gilbert house I just bought, we're running it ourselves out of state.
Right.
So
Which is going to be its own like learning curve, I'm assuming.
sort of. I mean, it's funny because PadSplit the whole time they will get your. I'm not trying to go off on PadSplit, but they will get your properties to about 80% because that's what they advertise, and they do it right. So if you're looking to get 80% on your properties, they'll do it at a pretty reasonable time, about 30 days.
Mm.
But in the Phoenix metro, it's blown up with so much supply. They're constantly doing the whack-a-mole, right? They're trying to get everybody to 80%. So when the new supply comes online, if you want to talk about why I pivoted from the west side to the east side, I can talk about that later. But so much supply came on the west side, they're constantly trying to fill it. And with this new fee structure, they take the first 10 days, 100% of your first 10 days, every new member. And so it's huge, plus the 8%, right? So it used to be a
Mm.
static 14.75%, which you can account for. But when you have that 10-day variable, like somebody moves in every month or whatever, you're getting hosed, right?
Right.
Um, so yeah, it's the fee structure changed, and it forced me to pivot, which is a good thing because who's to say in a year they don't change their fee structure again, right? But while with PadSplit, they advertise this wonderful thing, and they do the rent collection, which is good because they do week to week. They do have a platform, but nowadays there's 50 million platforms. I'm looking at one called Magic Door right now. It's AI based. It should be interesting. We'll see. But I've done all that anyway, other than the rent collection and the background checks. And so that's the only real missing piece because they get you to 80%. But if you really want your properties to perform, you're going to fill in that 20% if you want to get those members earlier. Like if you want to wait 30 days or whatever, or
Mm.
60 sometimes, they'll get you those extra members. But the quality of the members have gone way down, but they'll get you those extra members, but you're going to be vacant for a month or two. So it behooves you to go out. I use Facebook Marketplace, Turbo Tenant, and apartments.com now does rent by room. So does Zillow, but apartments.com is the one that's been the most conversions for me. So
Mhm.
I guess my point in saying that is I've done the member acquisition myself already.
Mhm.
So, and I wasn't that good at it in the beginning, and I've learned, and I'm getting better and better. Like I've got a few, I think back in the day when I was doing this, I got like 4 or 5, or 4, I think it was. And now just doing on my own this year, I think I've got about 3 intentionally. And one came from Basic Marketplace and 2 came from apartments.com through Turbo Tenant. So I'm getting
Yeah.
better at the member acquisition. So I feel fairly confident in it, but who knows? Devil's in the details. We'll see how it goes.
And when somebody thinks co-living or renting by the room, somebody has like a preconceived notion of what kind of renter you're going to get.
Oh yeah.
What is the most, like, I guess, surprising thing that's happened when you've seen like your tenants and in your houses?
I've had people that are actually fairly wealthy. I had an investor, as a matter of fact. He had, well, not really. He was an entrepreneur. He was doing some medical stuff, and he needed to be in Phoenix. So he had, I think he had one house in Nebraska, and then I think he sold his primary because he was renting it out. So he was doing really well. And my wife and I were down there cleaning one day, and we were talking to him, and he was going off about, I forget what it was, but he was doing something. It seemed to be progressing pretty well, but he had to be in Phoenix, but he wasn't sure if it was going to work out, and he wanted to save money. So there you go. The other surprising thing is, for whatever reason, I have a lot of people involved with insurance, right? I have people that work at a couple of people that work at my USAA insurance company, 2. I've only 24-hour units are active. And then I have 2, well, now 1, but I had some insurance adjusters. And so they flew out to Florida, they flew out to California when all the big stuff happened. So they're great because they're never there, right? They don't need a full place.
Right.
They just need a place to crash when they're in town. And
Mhm.
it seems the reason they do that is they have family there. And so when they're there, they want to be there so they can friends and family and all that, but they don't need a full blown place because they're traveling all the time. So that was interesting because like you and some others, I was thinking, like originally I didn't want to do it. I was like, man, I don't think I want to do this. This could be really bad because you're targeting lower income. Right.
Mhm.
Well, that's the idea. But I would say 10-15% of the people are actually middle to income, like not bad. I had a nurse. That's my favorite story. She was with me for 8 months, and she was working
Oh,
3.
wow.
Yeah, she rented the smallest room that I had, and I was like, okay. And I mean, it's a I think 8 by 10 or something, or the minimum
Mhm.
that you can have, which is
Yeah.
80 or square feet or whatever. And had its own mini split and everything. So she was happy, but um, and she was never there. She was working 3 jobs. And she was fantastic. And then after 8 months, she was leaving, and I'm like, hey,
Like,
everything.
no.
Yeah, I was like, did anything go wrong or this and that? She's like, no, I'm buying a house. Like she'd been working those 3 jobs. She'd been saving before she'd moved in. Then she found out about PadSplit and thought, oh, here's a better way to save more money. And she
Mhm.
was just killing it. And then she went and bought a house. And I was like, that is awesome. So that right there is what the house is built for, which is to help people get back on their feet or catch up on bills. I do have a few people that have been with me over a year and some change, and I don't know if they're ever going to leave. Not that I want them to. I'm fine. I'm 100% happy with them being there, but both of them are younger. All the people that stay a long time are younger, and they're just kind of coasting. You know what I mean? Like one guy works at a sandwich shop. It's called the Chiba Hut or something like that.
Mhm.
And and the guy's, anyway, he's, He's involved with extracurricular wacky tobacco. He's stoned all the time, right? And so he just doesn't really have a clear goal. He's a young kid, and but he's great. Pays his matter of fact, he has a credit with me, usually anywhere between $500 and $1,000, because the very first month he was there, he was late, and I'm like, oh man, this is not a good way to start. Young kid, yeah, he's like 25 at the time. I think he's 27 now. I was like, hey man, look, this isn't working out, blah blah blah, and we need to get these up. So now he keeps a credit because I think he's stoned all the time, so he forgets. So
Oh,
go
okay.
down to like 500, and then the next one he'll put it in there, so that way it always has a credit. And he's been doing that for a year and some change. Most people, if they're going to be in trouble with finance, the other way around, obviously, and I have about maybe 5 to 10% of people that for whatever reason every week they're late and they carry a
Mhm.
balance of like $200+ and they get charged $25 late fee every week. And I'm like,
Right.
okay, whatever,
I'll take your $25 every
yeah,
week.
sure, whatever. But I don't like it, but it is what it is. So.
Mhm. And tell me about like the most crazy stories of which like the worst inconvenient for you has been doing this co-living.
Oh man, I won't say his name, but it was, I think it was Q3 of 2024. We'd been running along. At that point, we have 3 properties, doing pretty good. Thank God we had the other 2 properties, because here's what happened. I was at 23 of the, this is a mistake, and I made it, and I knew when I did it, I was making it, but I'm a dumbass. And I was at, I'd never been at 100% occupancy on all 3 properties before. And I had the other 2 full, and I needed 1 more to fill on the first house. And the guy came in, he checked out good. He had, no, I don't do evictions. And everything was great. And I mean, sort of. And then he said his name is, oh, you're not going to have any problems out of, he said his name. And I'm like, ah, it's kind of a weird red flag, but nothing on paper that was like, okay, accepted him. 2 weeks later, man, he just started causing problems. Nothing big. He was super clean, and he big buff guy. He was a construction worker, and I think his ears were damaged because he's very loud.
Mhm.
And the fact that he was loud, he left at 4 in the morning and slammed the door. He was smoking in his car with the car running for hours on end right outside the windows of everybody. So, and he was, he rubbed everybody the wrong way. So anyway, long story short, he ended up nuking about. So it's an 8 bedroom house. All my houses are 8 bedroom, and he was the 8th one. So I was 100% occupied, and I was super happy for like 2 weeks. Well, he ended up causing at the end of the day 4 people to move out, and then I had to
Mhm.
ask him to move out all within 2 months. So I lost 5 people in one house in 2 months. And so at a time when supply was off the chart, like we were normally running about um, I'd say 40 to 50 units available or something like that in the beginning. And then it spiked up to 100. This is the entire valley, Phoenix Metro Valley. And it spiked at like 130, 140 units. So there was a ton of supply coming online because everybody was doing the same thing I was doing. They saw what was going on and people were talking about it. And so I couldn't fill those rooms fast enough. So that was pretty bad. And that was my, I'm gonna knock on some wood here. That was my only on the property, not the other 2, negative cash flow month by like 400 or something. Because I had the other, well, throughout the month I had some, and then I had three rooms. So for me, I'll go through this real quick. The properties I'm buying, I'd mentioned this earlier. The reason Arizona was great on all fields was tax incentives, 5th largest city, population, blah blah blah. But the negative was the purchase price because they're over 400.
Right.
But for tax purposes, that's a good thing for write-offs, which was one of my goals. So that's why it fit. But in order to do that with conventional, in order to service that debt, I had to add rooms to the houses. So my buy box is with conventional is 2,000 square feet or better, no HOA, no pool, plenty of parking. Solar's a bonus. And so in order to do that, I had to bump the house up to 8 bedrooms. And so that's the reason I need 2,000 square feet to find enough rooms, or take the living room, dining room, and add bedrooms in order to service the debt. So if I could get a creative property that the debt was cheap enough to where I could run 5 bedrooms, I'd do it. But
Mhm.
I wanted to get started. That's what I did. So I had to add bedrooms. Well, anyway, the first 4 bedrooms pay the mortgage. The 5th bedroom, if you're looking at money wise to break it down, the 5th bedroom pays the utilities for half the year, and the other half is profit, and then 6, 7, and 8 is all profit. So the fact that I lost room 8, room 7, room 6, bad, and then room 5, and then room 4, so I was down to 3 towards the end of the month. That's bad. So I was negative 400 for that property, but luckily the other two were 100% occupied. So the portfolio wasn't negative. We dropped down to like, I don't know, 4K net or something like that month, which sucked because we're hitting 5 or 6K net on average. I'd say like 5,500 split the difference, but we've had 8K net months and we've had 4K net months, 4,100K net months. So yeah. So anyway, that's the worst one ever was that guy. And it was my fault because I accepted him. And I kind of knew it in the back of my head, but you kind of know, and you just
You
sometimes you
kind
do
of know
dumb
you
stuff.
just ignore your gut for whatever reason. Like
I
you
don't,
said, on paper he was fine, right?
yeah, I don't regret it though because it taught me, pain is a very good teacher, right? Um, and that it was probably one of the better things that happened to me because now, like everything else, you learn pain, you change and change and change. Which I got to give a shout out to Coach Carson, Dion, and Matt the Lumberjack because they all told me to slow down because I was going to go out and buy everything, and I just slowed down and bought one, learned a little bit, bought another, learned a little bit. But that pain taught me to vet better. Even though PadSplit's vetting them and sending me the members, I I'll turn down anywhere between 10 and 15% of the people they send me. But then the
Mhm.
last 2 months, it's closer to 40%. I don't know what's going
Oh.
on, but it's been pretty bad. Like a lot of evictions and a lot of things. I don't do evictions. So if I see that, I just automatically decline. So
Mhm. Mhm. What have you learned about yourself during this journey? It's been like a short journey because it hasn't been like 2 years yet, I think. But what have you learned about yourself?
I've learned that, for me, what's weird is real estate. I don't know if anybody's ever said this, has made me a better person. And here's why. And I owe Pace this actually, which is funny, but I was a very pessimistic person, right? Like I always thought people were trying to scam me. Everything's which is good and bad, right? But what I've learned is to get out of my own way. And I talk a lot, so that's a problem for me. It's good and bad. Like everything, sometimes your strengths are also your biggest weaknesses. But I need to stop talking and listen more. And so I've tried to listen more. I'm not great at it, but I'd like to talk and I love real estate. Just ask Shane and Max from the ORAT. They wanted to meet for coffee. We spent 6 hours there. And they're like, dude, because I'll talk your ear off. Obviously, we're going here. But yeah, I've learned to get out of my own way, listen to other people that have been there, done that. And because in the beginning, right off the bat, I consumed a lot of information. I thought, oh, I know how to do this. I'm going to go. And no, I don't. I have no idea what I'm doing. So slow down, listen to other people and whatnot. Anyway, that's been humbling for me. And I've learned, I feel like I'm a better person because of it. Right? I'm not so pessimistic now. I'm optimistic. Like a lot of entrepreneurs, I'm not an entrepreneur, but I'm like Zuber says, I'm a W-2, been doing it for 30 years. But that's it. Just listen, learn, and get out of my own way and learn from others. That's why the ORAC community is so cool, and in sub two as well. And, the Gator communities, and there's a few other free communities. I'm in the AI communities as well. Learning a lot from all the people that have been there, done that. So,
No, we really appreciate you. You're like you do talk a lot, but you also like teach a lot. So that's one of the things that we have learned from your the accountability calls, and like you're just willing to share all the information, references, tax advice,
oh yeah.
aka do your own research when you're talking about taxes. But yes, yeah. So tax-free wealth. What are the major things that you have taken from real estate that you put it to action that you've seen work now
Oh,
because
the
you've
100 or the bonus depreciation by far. I mean, that's awesome. And especially now that the 100% came back, retro back to, I think, January 20th of 2025. I'm super happy about that because for me, I've done the math. It's about 107K in write-offs. So last year we wrote off 265K. We still had to write a check for 50K to the state. Well, state was, I think, 14 and Fed was the delta, the difference there.
Mhm.
And that was a big learning. But yeah, I think I'm sorry, I'm back to the question.
The bonus depreciation
Oh,
is the
bonus,
big
yeah, the
takeaway
things that,
from.
yeah, bonus depreciation was the big one. But the other piece too is I've never been a finance person. I know I didn't read books. And then, I got taxes pissed me off so much, state and federal, because my property taxes went up. I got upset. I didn't like what they were doing with the taxes. And I decided, you know what? I'm not paying them anymore. I got to figure out how to not to pay so much. And so that's what got me started. So for me, I actually owe the state and federal government, state of Oregon and the federal government, a big thank you because they pissed me off to the point where I actually took some action and did something about it. You know what I mean? Like, had that not have happened, I probably would have just kept on going, and then retirement age would have been like, oh, now I'm screwed, and living off cheaper rent. So yeah,
Maybe that should be your speech, your speaking engagement. Thank you, Oregon, for
yeah,
changing my life and send me
yeah.
in a different path.
That's part of it. I mean, I've been up at night. That's part of the reason I don't sleep. And I'm thinking about the speech and what I'm going to say because I want people to get value out of it, but I want to make it fun. But then Zuber wants us to tell our story, so I'm going to have to try to inject all that within a short time frame. And so it's kind of been changing as I go. So
Well, I mean, I'm gonna look forward to hearing you speak. Of course, I'm going. So that's gonna be fun. If you guys are watching, please do purchase your tickets from Water at a Time. They're already on sale. It's affordable and it's gonna be a fun time. It's a
I
lot
will.
of information in 2 days.
Yeah. I will say though that I think, Zuber and others had mentioned this with Jason Hartman going and speaking and Pace going. They're not playing around when they say they have huge followings. I mean, you've heard the name. They have a big community. I think there's like 18,000 just in sub two alone for Pace's community. So, he's busy, but he may mention here in a couple of weeks, hey, in Vegas, if he does that, boom, we might have a problem. So I bought my tickets too. So I would get your tickets early. And I'm not well, I guess I'm affiliated because I'm speaking, but I'm not like, Zuber doesn't do this to make money. He does it for the ORAC community. So I would definitely get your tickets sooner than later because you might find yourself, SOL.
Yeah, I'm not going. Staying LobbyCon this one as well.
Yeah.
But yeah, but thank you so much for coming on my
Yeah.
channel, Jared. It was so fun interviewing you, and I can't wait to hear about when I invite you next and all the things that you already done because you
Yeah.
moved so fast.
Well, I think it's slow, but I've been purposely trying to slow down so I don't make mistakes, and I mean, knock on wood, and just trying to listen to Coach Carson and Dion and Lumberjack. Like, hey, Lumberjack says slow is smooth and smooth is fast. So trying to just go slow and learn as I go. And that way I don't make a big mistake.
Awesome. Well, we'll have you back.
Yeah. Well,
See you
thanks for having me.
guys.